Ako po yung lingkod, Tina Shuttle Clemente, Anghel ng Masa. Inaanyayahan ko po ang bawat isa sa inyong manood at suportahan ang programa po ng aking kapatid na si Mike DATUIN ng Guardia News. Like, share, and invite.
Sariling kalayaan ay kinalimutan. Sana'y upang mapapilan sa hukbo ng sandata. Mahal sa buhay ay nilisan dahil sa pangarap na maglingkod sa inang bayan. Kapayapaan ang bitin, sakripisyo ng bawat sundalo. Buhay ay laging nasa peligro sa panahon ng digmaan. Lumalaban na may tapang, iaalay ang sariling buhay para sa kabayanihan.
Napasok ako ng sundalo is sigaw ganos kasi hindi ko man talagang pinapangarap talaga na magiging sa akin. Pero gusto ko nang may tungkol at hindi ko ito. Una yung talagang may sumisigaw na makarating pa lang mas na-shocking na. Gusto ko nang umayaw.
Para sa bayan, sino pa ang pupulin ay gagampanan? Ito ang panata ng isang away na hindi kalilimutan. Hirap at pagod ay lalampasan dahil sa pangarap na makamit ang kapayapaan. Kapayapaan ang bitin,
Lahat na ngayon online. Online shopping, online meeting, online payment. Sa PhilHealth, narito na ang aming tugon sa inyong request para sa mas mabilis at pila-free payment para sa mga self-earning individuals. Sa pakikipagtulungan sa iPay MYEG Philippines Incorporated, inilulunsad ng PhilHealth ang pagbabayad ng contribution online. Paano ang pagbabayad? Mag-login sa www.philhealth.gov.ph. Piliin ang online services. I-click ang PhilHealth Member Portal at mag-create ng account. Hanapin ang Payment Management at mag-generate ng Statement of Premium Account. Piliin ang paraan ng pagbabayad. Para sa debit o credit card, kumpletuhin ang lahat ng mga hinihinging detalye. Ibigay ang one-time PIN o OTP.
The PSPG Advisory Group is the external partner of the PSPG in the implementation of the PNP Patrol Plan 2030. One of the projects of the PSPG Advisory Group under the leadership of Dr. Rajadurai Romero II, Chairman, is the first PSPG Advisory Group Cup 2022, which aims to hone the marksmanship skill of the participating PSPG personnel, enhance the spirit of camaraderie and teamwork among PSPG personnel, strengthen partnership to stakeholders, and to raise funds for the establishment of PSPG training facility to include other future projects. Establishment of PSPG training facility at Barangay San Juan Bano, Arayat, Pampanga, as a proposed training facility for VIP security and protection course.
LaGuardia Radio Guesting is one of the program of PSPG Advisory Group through the effort of Mr. Michelangelo DATUIN, a weekly radio program allotted for PSPG that promotes the PSPG mandates, its duties and functions, and serve as a medium for PSPG to the listeners and viewers of LaGuardia. Joy of Urban Farming currently as PSPG Urban Premiership Project initiated by Dr. Alicia A. Denaya, as part of their proposed advisory group key contributions to PNP Performance Governance System. This initiative is in line to one of the PNP core values Pulis Maka Ka Li Ka San. COVID-19 related PSPG AG key contributions.
Trainers Training Project aims to enhance significant subjects and topics that are more appropriate to the program of instruction of the VIP Security and Protection course, and continual enhancement and development of protective security skills of PSPG personnel along with the VIP SPC training.
For the capability enhancement through the effort of Dr. Rajadurai Romero II donated 300,000 pesos for the renovation of the PSPG building, which aims to create a quality workplace environment.
With their noteworthy support and commitment to help the PSPG, the advisory group accumulated
a total amount of 2,626,072.84 pesos.
The PSPG Advisory Group shall act as an external advisory body for the PSPG in the effective implementation of the PNP Patrol Plan 2030, with programs and projects focusing on the issues of guiding its strategic direction to the success and accomplishment of the PSPG organization's mission and attainment of its visions. A highly capable, effective and credible PNP National Support Unit providing professional protective security services.
Kami po ang Pililla Municipal Police Station at kayo po ay nakikinig sa programa na Anghel de la Guardia sa Guardia News Online at AFP Radio at sa DWDD 1134 kHz AM Radio ni Mike La Guardia DATUIN. Servisyo publiko with team effort na may kaligtasan PNP. Tara, samahan niyo kami!
Kami po ang RPSPU-4A ng PSPG at inaanyayahan po namin kayo na manood at makinig sa programa ni Mike La Guardia DATUIN ng Anghel de la Guardia. Basta PSPG, trustworthy, via online.
Sabi nila, mahirap ang maging sundalo. Ngunit tila mayroong tinig na bumubulong sa isipan na ang bayan ay pagsilbihan. Ang takot at kaba kailangang iwanan na. Maraming pagsasanay ang madaraanan dahil ang kapalaran ay nasa ating mga kamay. Tatag ng loob, tiwala sa sarili at tibay ng dibdib. Huwag kang mag-alala, sa bawat sandali mayroong Diyos na kakampi. Halika na, sa'yo ang simula ng pag-ahon. Sumabay tayo sa agos ng agos. Sa'yo ang simula ng pagbabago. Hindi ka na itataya ang buhay para sa bayan. Pagkakisaan siya daan para sa kalayaan. Walang kubas ng saya ng puso sa bawat laban na malalampasan. Handa na ako sa lahat ng mangyayari. Lalaban ako kahit na ano bang imposible. Ako susuko, di ako susuko. Halika na, sa'yo ang simula ng pag-ahon. Sumabay tayo sa agos ng alon. Sa'yo
nakikinig sa Anghel de la Guardia sa DWDD.
Hi, mabuhay po kayong lahat. Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Anghel de la Guardia sa The Guardia News Online at AFP Radio at sa DWDD 1134 kHz AM Radio ni Mike La Guardia DATUIN. Tara na! Samahan niyo po kami. Ako po si Bong Nebriha, ang Hunter 1 ng Metro Manila. Mabuhay po kayo.
Narito ang makabuluhan at siksik na talakayan. Ang programang may puso at kapupulutan ng aral. Ukol sa seguridad at kaligtasan. Umaksyon, maging alerto. Anghel de la Guardia.
Blaze Records. Easy.
Isang masaya, mapayapa at ligtas na araw Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao.
Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
Binabati natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world mula sa Amerika, nasa Europa,
Ngumiti ka lang
UAE, Qatar,
lahat ng iyong
at sa
hirap at
Russia.
masakit ay merong sagot.
Ating
Sa
kakwadyahan,
madilim mong mundo
Tundaluan,
na nababalo.
kapulisan,
Bubuksan ko yan at
kaakibat sa public
bibigyan ko ng
safety,
liwanag.
peace and
Magtiwala
order,
ka
mga
lang
empleyado
at
ng
huwag kang
pamahalaan,
mapagyabang.
mga ordinaryong
Andito
manggagawa,
ako,
may
handa
kapansanan
kitang
ka man o
ipaglaban.
wala,
Kahit anong
ang
mangyari,
ating mga
di kita
kabataan
iiwan.
o ang ating
Huwag ka
mga
na malungkot,
tinatawag
andito
na
na ako.
millennial.
Pupunasan
Mula po
ko
sa
ang
amin
luha
dito
sa
sa
mga
programang
mata mo.
Anghel
Di
de
ka
la
na
Guardia,
magdurusa pagkat
programang
ako magsisilbi
para sa
sa'yo.
Guardiang Pilipino,
Anghel
karapatan
de la
ng mga
Guardia.
manggagawang
Huwag
tagaligtas
ka na
at
malungkot,
lahat ng
andito na
manggagawang
ako.
Pilipino ukol
Pupunasan
sa
ko ang luha sa
kaligtasan at
mga mata
kahandaan.
mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
The
Anghel de la
national
Guardia.
security community,
Hindi
whole of
ako si
government and whole of
Superman.
society
Ako'y
working
normal na
together
tao lang. Handa makinig
para
at
ayusin
pwede
yung
mong sandalan.
intergenerational
Kaibigan
problem na yan.
kita,
Si
pero
Chairman
sa
mismo
kabilang
nagpunta
banda,
doon
mahal
to
kita.
see
Pero mahal
ginagawa
mo
ng
siya.
mga tropa
Di
ng
ako naghahangad
mandato
na
na
mahalin mo
mag-check
rin
ng mga
ako.
drivers,
Pero sana
lalong-lalo
mapansin
na yung
mo
mga
ang
babiyahe
pagtingin
na
ko
malayo.
sa'yo. Kahit ang turing mo sa
Ako
akin
po
ay
ang inyong
isang
lingkod,
Anghel de la
Mike
Guardia.
Laguardia,
Ayos lang,
DATUIN,
basta alam kong
nagbabalita,
masaya ka.
naghahayag at
Huwag ka
naglilingkod
na
para sa
malungkot,
kaligtasan
andito
at
na
kapayapaan
ako.
ng
Pupunasan
bawat
ko ang luha sa
mamamayan.
mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia.
Seguridad at kaligtasan ay responsibilidad ng bawat mamamayan. Mapasaan ka man, lakasan ang loob at magtiwala dahil lahat tayo ay may Anghel de la Guardia. Isang mapagpala, mapayapa, ligtas na araw sa ating lahat at sa lahat ng ating mga taga-subaybay ng programang Anghel de la Guardia, Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao dito sa La Guardia News Online, FB page at sa DWDD 1134 kHz AM Radio via at AFP Radio FB page. Ang programang ito ay hatid sa atin ng La Guardia News. Tanod ng Malayang Pilipino. Binabati po natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world mula sa Amerika, Europa, Middle East at sa lahat ng bahagi ng Asya. Binabati rin natin ang lahat ng ating mga kagwardihan, kasundaluhan, kapulisan, kaakibat sa public safety, peace and order, mga empleyado ng pamahalaan at mga pribadong kumpanya, mga ordinaryong manggagawa may kapansanan, man o wala, mga kababaihan at ang mga kabataan at ang kanilang mga pamilya at mga mahal sa buhay, lalo ang lahat ng mga may kamag-anak na naiwan malayo sa kanilang pinagtatrabahuan. Higit sa lahat ay ang ating sambayanang Pilipino, saan ka man dito sa Pilipinas at sa buong mundo. Mula po sa amin, dito sa programang Anghel de la Guardia,
ang programang para sa Guardiang Pilipino, karapatan ng mga manggagawang tagaligtas at lahat ng manggagawang Pilipino ukol sa kaligtasan at kahandaan. Ako po ang inyong lingkod, Mike Laguardia, DATUIN, nagbabalita at naghahayag at naglilingkod para sa kaligtasan at kapayapaan ng bawat mamamayan. Usapang may Diwa, Seguridad at Kaligtasan. Yan po ang ating palatuntunan ngayon. At ako'y nagagalak dahil tayo makakasama ang mga internationally renowned speakers and subject matter experts on crime prevention in one country that is called Malaysia, and the other one is called France, for everyone to share in this conversation and learn from their culture of crime prevention. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan i-like and share, ha? Kaya napaka-exciting naman itong diskusyon na ito. Ang ating programa ngayon, ang ating live broadcast ngayon to your friends and friends timeline. Review us at AFP Radio or at La Guardia News Online FB page. Kaya tayo na't magkahuntahan. Let's come together and talk about crime prevention, safety, security, peace, and order. Thank you very much to our Corps of Advisors, mentors, supporters, and partners, former Police Director General Edgar Aglipay, Marinette Yan Aglipay, Ella Aglipay Delio and family, Michael Edgar Aglipay, Attorney Emeline Aglipay Villar, Senator Mark Villar, Teresita Castro Yan, General Emiliano Templo of E-Power Security Agency, Kuya Colonel Edison Bong Nebriha and Ateng Yvette Nebriha. Hi Ateng Yvette, welcome to the country again. Kuya Ramon Bergado, National President of PADPAO, Kuya Vanny Rosales of Rising Sun Security Agency, of course, to the ever indefatigable Kuya June Lua and Ateng Ofel Lua of JSL Security Group, Kuya Eros Zuniga ng Safety Organization of the Philippines at kay Kuya Ed Parotcha, ang chairman ng Philippine Association of Safety and Security, or rather, member at chairman ng Safety Organization of the Philippines pala, at ang chairman ng or past president of the Philippine Association of Safety and Security Management, Colonel Val Hizon, and the current president, Kuya Colonel Romeo Bautista, and to the chairman emeritus of Mall Security Management Association of the Philippines, and vice chair, Kuya Colonel Almos Alabi, and Dr. Estelito June de la Cruz, who's watching right now. Kuya June, mabuhay ka. Kuya Dr. Loy Reyes, the vice president for Luzon, of the Campus Security, the Vice President of the Campus Security and Safety Management Alliance of the Philippines. Kuya Delio Azeron, Vice President, Regional Vice President of PhilHealth Region 10, Don Bosco Technical College Alumni Association, sa ating friend Kuya Simon Lim of Frisky Hipon and Dampa Express, at to the former DILG Secretary, Rafi Alunan, sir, mabuhay po. To our Federation friends, and partners, Alliance of Security and Safety Practitioners, Philippine Association of Certified Security Risk Management Specialists, Association of Certified Security Risk Management Specialists, Campus Security and Safety Management Alliance of the Philippines, Security Guards Association of the Philippines, 5-9ers, Association of Certified Security Trainers of the Philippines, Philippine Investigative Media Alliance, Inc., Sidakma Riders Group, Adlagcag RWVG, Anghel de la Guardia Community Action Group, Baguio, Valenzuela, and Rizal, Rizal PNP, Press Corps, DWDD, Broadcasters Group, Taytay Security Action Force, Anti-Crime, Anti-Poverty, Bantay Lawa, Taytay Rizal, Taytay Municipal Police Advisory Council or Advisory Group and all its members, and to our brothers in the Philippine Guardian, Magdiwang Legionnaire, mabuhay mga kapatid sa balikat, mabuhay ang Guardians, Maharlikan Tigers International Fraternity and Sorority, mabuhay mga lakan, and to our fraternal brothers in the Fraternal Order of Eagles, Philippine Eagles, Northern Luzon, Central Luzon, Northern Region 23, Golden Apollo Eagles Club, and all Kuya, Ate, and Bunso. Mabuhay ang Agila. Special mention to our brother club, Exodus Club, Fortis et Kingua, and Vera Eagles Club. Mabuhay ang lahat ng ating mga tinawag ngayon. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. At tayo na't mag-usap. Let's talk about peace and order, crime prevention in our program. But it's kind of lame. That's my opinion. If we're going to talk about local crime prevention methods, because it's what we have been talking about in our program. We've been asking a majority of the Philippine National Police, our Philippine police officers in their respective stations, respective command, and respective unit. So probably it's high time that we try and ask how the international community is doing. Probably one from Europe, and the other one from our sister country in Malaysia, in Asia. So let's try and see. Let's ask them how they solve or how they manage their crime prevention methodologies. So to give an overview for our first guest, let's go somewhere close. Let's go to Malaysia. Let me share a few facts about Malaysia crime statistics. In 2023, Malaysia's crime rate increased in several areas, including online crime, commercial crime, and the crime index. On online crime, the number of online crime cases increased by 35.5% to 34,532 in 2023, compared to 25,479 in 2022. E-commerce crime was the most common type of online crime, accounting for 33.2% of all cases. And on commercial crime, the number of commercial crime cases increased by 32.1% to 40,350 in 2023, compared to 30,536 in 2022. Fraud was the most common type of commercial crime in 2023, as it is indicated. So, on the crime index, which includes assault and property crimes, increased by 3.2% to 52,444 cases in 2023, compared to 50,813 in 2022. That will be for the crime index. For the children's sexual crime, the number of children's sexual crime cases increased by 26.5% to 1,567 in 2023. Child pornography was the most common type of children's sexual crime. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest coming from Malaysia is none other than a broadcaster himself, a podcaster himself. He has a PhD in criminology from University Malaya, Masters in Criminal Justice, and the only certified crime prevention through environmental design practitioner, or ICA, or by ICA, in Southeast Asia. He has been conducting training and consultancy for more than 10 years. He is an international speaker, a consultant on crime prevention, and has conducted training and consultation for over 150 corporations. He is also the co-producer of the crime prevention online miniseries, Kuwasa Wanita di Sini, which has millions of views. He has also been featured in various TV and radio talk shows, newspapers, and magazines locally and internationally. In recognition of his unique expertise and contributions towards keeping society safe, renowned organizations such as PDRM, Customs, TUDM, and regulatory bodies have invited him numerous times to be honored guest, lecturer, and speakers in key discourses. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shamir Rajadurai. I hope I was able to say that right. Dr. Shamir, welcome to the program. Welcome to my humble program.
Thank you very much. No, not humble program. It's always a pleasure being on your show. It's one of the favorite ones. I like coming back in the Philippines. So thank you very much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your platform, and to be able to contribute to such interesting discussions that take place on your platform. So thank you very much. It's really a humbling experience for me to be able to be part of this.
Thank you, brother, and it's an honor for us here in the studio, and of course for the Filipino people to hear Dr. Shamir Rajadurai again. The first time I met you was in an international event. We were both looking at booths and inquiring about their technology.
Yes.
And I guess
Many
you
years
were
ago.
you were a speaker then. How many years ago was this? Was it
I
10
think
years
this was
ago?
2018.
COVID, my friend. 2018. So it's
Yes.
almost more than 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7 years.
7 years, and it's good to see you still look the
Almost 7
same, young, energetic, and and always full of life.
Thank you, brother. For since you know how it works in a radio program, we are time limited, time constrained. So I'll get down to the point so that our friends and our listeners in the Philippines, Dr. Loy Reyes, Clyde Pendorn, Rainier Catalasan, Major Colonel Pancito, Dr. Taliedo. There's a lot of listeners now and are wanting to hear from our friend Dr. Shamir Rajadurai. You've heard my basic crime statistics overview. This I got this from the internet, and I'm not sure if it's totally accurate. You tell me, brother. And what is your take on this?
Okay. Of course, when we look at statistics, we always have to remember that's just a fraction of the reality, right? Statistics are always just what's reported. We have to remember there's a lot of things that go unreported. So I think with the statistics shared, we have to realize we are just probably just breaking the ice, or just touching the surface with it. It's worse than what it is, right? So when we look at some of the things you shared, you spoke about, the increase of online scams, and one of the biggest things is e-commerce. And of course, the reason why we look, or why e-commerce crimes have increased is because, especially when the pandemic hit, all of us went online, and for us to get our goods, it's just easier to get it online. And with that, there have been more and more platforms that have come up, and there are always very good offers on this platform, and everybody looks at this as a point where, of course, if I were to buy this online, it's generally cheaper than me getting it from a store, because of the rental and so on. But sometimes when we look at the price, it's sometimes too good to be true. We just had the 11/11 sale, and things are just way below market rate, right? But sometimes it comes back to that question of, can something actually be sold at that price? Where is the profit margin going to be? So that's something that we need to look at. And another problem
You
is
have to
that,
be curious.
you have to be curious. You have to be curious. Why is it being sold
Why
at
is
that
it
price?
too good to be true?
Yes, why is it too good to be true? If the general consensus of the market price is maybe 1,000 pesos, why is it suddenly selling for half that price? Right? Something must be wrong somewhere, right? And also, one of the things that we see with this sort of e-commerce scam is that, especially when we deal with criminals, right? We sit down with criminals, we understand the psyche behind it. One thing that they realize is that people are enticed with a good deal. Whether it's true or not is a secondary thought of them. They'll be like, no, I need to get this now. If not, I'm never
Right.
going to get this for this price. right? But they fail to realize, if I get this now at this price, am I going to lose more than actually gain something? So when it comes to
Right.
e-commerce scams, and the reason why online crime has increased is because when we sit down with criminals, with cyber criminals, and we ask them, don't you feel bad doing this? And the general statement that always comes is, I'm not hurting anybody physically. So how they look at it is that, if when we look at index crime and property crime, I'm going out, I'm physically hurting you. And also, that creates the fear of crime. Whereas when you become a victim of cybercrime, it generally doesn't create that fear of crime. The level of fear of crime is so different with physical crime in comparison to cybercrime. So I think that's one of the reasons why it has increased as well, right?
Is it possible that there are also quite a few mechanisms that are available for crime prevention or tools in preventing most of these crimes online? Talking about online crimes.
Yeah. Quite a few. One of the things we always tell people to get a proper antivirus. I know some of us might just continuously use free softwares, but get proper ones. You get the paid versions is always good.
Right.
Covers a larger scale of things, and that is normally your first point of defense. And then you've also got now a lot
Right.
of AI technology which will give you a warning if something is suspicious. So if that happens as well, do take caution. Do take caution. I think with the way crime prevention has been moving, and the tools which are coming up, there's always this space of you know um, there's always space of there's actually always a tool. We just need to be aware of what those
Right.
tools are.
I'll hold you to that because I
Yes.
think worth the discussion from your end
Mm,
is what you just said. Are tools available
mm,
in fighting crime
yep.
online?
Mm,
Because
mm,
I think on this topic, this is a
yep.
quite remarkable discussion to open up because this is slowly growing.
Yep.
Actually, it's not. I would be modest if I say slowly because it's rapidly growing.
Rapid.
To be
Yes.
honest, just how many days ago? I think 3 days ago in our
Hmm.
country, we
Hmm.
had a major breakdown on one of our large Gcash or
Okay.
cash uh, methodologies here in the
Yep.
country. So
Okay.
I'll open that up.
Yep.
I'll be asking you some questions on that, and probably you can share us some thoughts on your end on cybercrime, which
Yes.
might also have a
Mm.
lead on that. Because remember, on the crime index, there was online crime, sexual crime.
Yes.
So there's a rise on those things, on pornography, etc.
Yes.
So with that, I hold you with that. Thank you, Dr.
Yep.
Shamir Rajadurai.
Thank you very
That
much.
is Dr. Shamir. That that is Dr. Shamir on his take on the crime prevention or crime statistics of Malaysia and how he was able to contextualize it from his point of view, moving to our source of discussion later, going back to him on cyber crimes. So this is very interesting because I'll be giving you another interesting discussion. In this discussion, we have another guest. So I'll be putting them both here today. So we'll have all of us will be discussing these particular issues in this program. So to maximize it, I have to maximize it because this is like we're three countries talking in this online program. So let me introduce to you our next speaker. But before I next guest, but before I do that, let me give her also. It's a she. Yes. Let me give her a. Let me give you guys facts about crime, or rather crime statistics in France. So a while ago, we were able to talk about crime statistics in Malaysia and discussed by Dr. Shamir on his end. Now from France, let me open up with violent crime. As stated here in the data that I was able to gather, violent crime, again, same data, 2023, there were 384,100 violent crimes in France, which was the highest number since 2016. This was an increase of more than 30,000 from the previous year. That's 2022. So therefore, on that aspect, let me break down on a couple of crimes. Homicide rate in 2023, the international homicide rate, the intentional homicide rate in France was 1.560 per 100,000 people. The homicide rate has fluctuated in recent years, in part due to terrorist attacks. So that being in that particular frame would be the basic identification of that report. Now, on theft, in February 2024, the most common crime reported to the police was theft without violence. So I guess this is basically just stealing without harming the person. So in that particular context, let me move to another, the vehicle theft. The please correct me if I'm wrong. L'Île-de-France region is the most affected by vehicle theft in France. So it's not much number, but vague discussion on vehicle theft. Burglary, the Bourgeois du Rhône. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. Department is the most affected by burglaries in France. Our next guest, before I get my tongue twisted, our next guest is a criminology and psychology diploma holder. She coaches groups of youth in jail, all under 26 years old, to succeed when they get out, accompany the foundations, special education centers, and schools to better their accompaniment of juvenile delinquents. She specializes in healing trauma, plus the science of success. Quite interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest for tonight, Laureline Soler. I hope I was able to say that right. Laureline. Hi, Ms. Laureline.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the program. So with that, was I able to say those words?
Yeah,
properly?
no worries. Laureline, everything is perfectly fine.
All right. So with that, thank you for joining us, Ms. Laureline, on our program. What is your take on the crime discussion? I think I'm not even sure if it's crime rate, but that overview of crime perspective on your country for 2023 data. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is super interesting. So on my side, I am not so into crime, which can seem a bit funny, because what I am looking at is really like the other side, is like getting out of crime. So I am not so much like into the kind of all of the crime conversation. I'm like really like, how do we get out? Like, what is the opposite of crime actually? Like, how can we help people to come from all of like everything that you just described, like the murders, violence, like the thief, all of that, like it all comes from one source. It comes from somewhere. And I mean, like, you've been giving a lot of very simple crime, I would say, like numbers. And it's like what we're so used to look at. Like, you know, like the crimes from the streets, from the bad people, you know, like we're very, like we're not talking so much about like other kind of crimes, which are still crimes, like financial crimes, like fraud, like people are just like stealing at other different levels. And as Shamir said just before, it's because also there is not so much of the violence part in that. So people feel like it's not so much of a problem, but that's also a problem that has consequences. So my take on that is that we need to look at crime completely differently than what we're used to. We need to look somewhere else. We are so used to look at the data as like there's like this kind of crime, this number of crime, and we're just focusing on that. And I think we're just like, I mean, what I'm doing is education. I am accompanying people on the like educative part. And so I am just more like, how do we get out of that? Like, that's my real question. How do we get out of that? Because crime is going to keep growing.
Right. How do you, I'm sorry, how do you approach it from your perspective on how to get out of crime? I read in your file from my introduction a while ago that there is something to the road of success, and you they call you Coach Laureline from some facilities from some of the data I gathered, and meaning in my mind there's someone trying to give me a guide or mentoring me on how to be not a criminal but a more successful person. Is that how you're approaching it?
Yeah.
Or there's another?
Like, yeah. That's how I approach that. And my take on that is that if you are able to do something that is completely illegal, that is like, even like the fact that it's immoral is something else. We need to work on that. Like, but the fact that you can think kind of out of the box, the fact that you can take risk, the fact that you can have like some sort of initiative in your life, you have some kind of leadership when you're like committing some crimes. So I want to know who you are and what we can do with the energy that you have. You have some. It can come from anger. It can come from the feeling of injustice. It comes from like the feeling of lack. But whatever that is, there is some. Yeah, like there is some energy. We can redirect this energy. We can make something out of this energy. And that's what I'm actually doing in jail. So I am accompanying youth. And what I'm doing is like trying to understand what brought them to crime. And some of them are just actually like very ambitious people. Like just, we need to just say that. Some of them are just very ambitious and they see that as a business. This is just like business.
Interesting.
So we just interesting. There is one part that is like, we need to heal the part that is making them go into something that is immoral, or that, like, for example, the violence. Okay, some people are going to want to murder. Some people are going to want to be violent. Like, you are going to have like very kind of bad crimes in this matter. But like, it comes from somewhere. And most of those guys, like I've been accompanying them in jail, most of them, it's like completely unconscious. Like, it's completely like out of their own control. It's just like emotional stuff. If you heal that, it's over. Like, they're not going to commit crime again. They do not even want to. So I've grown up in a very, very violent place. And yeah, like one situation I was in, the guy was almost like killing someone. And I just like, the guy was like very, very tall and I'm very small. You cannot see that there. Like, I am small. And I was just like stopping that guy who was like, I cannot describe the difference of age between us. And I was just stopping them like very calmly, but he was out of his mind. And I was like, I am going to get you out of here. Like, that's going to be okay. You're going to calm down. You're going to explain me what's going on. But that guy was actually getting out of 20 years of jail for very, very violent stuff. And I was just able to just like push him outside and talk to him. And the reason, like when I asked, like, why did you let me? And he said, because you said, when you were talking, you said, like, you do not want to do that. I'm going to help you. And I felt it. And that guy really didn't want to be violent. He just didn't know how to do anything different at the moment. So I was just I was just helping. And so this is the first thing, like learning how to deal with emotion, learning how to heal trauma. That's the first part. Then you have all of the, like, building, I would say, like the moral part, which is like, you can have as much trauma as you want in your life. It doesn't make you a criminal. A lot of people go through life, go through like so many difficult things. They do not become criminals. Why? Because they've been educated in some other ways. They're patient. They're compassionate. They have like a sense of justice. They could not imagine in their identity that they could hurt someone. They cannot be like, they have honesty.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's one part I am working on.
That's very interesting, Ms. Laureline, because in how I am hearing you is that you're trying to approach it from a behavior point of view, from a root cause of his thoughts towards being given an option on either doing good or doing bad. So this is very interesting because that's the psychology of crime. On the psychology of crime, it now gives you that particular winding road, options that are that needs to come in the right time in the perfect situation, and being given the right options. And these are the challenges of communities. These are the challenges of society. The society in general does not particularly, as I was able to cite it in one of my lectures, in cultural indifference, society does not have the right equipment, tools, methodologies, opportunities being given to them, especially in areas that are less in life. So I'm not saying it's poverty. I think probably it's lesser technology, lesser trained teachers, more violent conditions. Because we have some provinces in our country which are remote. Our country is divided in three regions: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The Luzon is where the urban is at, and the Visayas is slowly going to urban, but this is a big province. The Mindanao is also a big province, but this is where cultural differences have, because this is largely, predominantly Muslim, which is on the other side of our society, which is highly, because the Philippines is 80%, if I'm not mistaken, 80% or 70% Catholic. So that small portion, which is the side of our country, has that particular cultural indifference. This is very interesting because from your point of view, you are trying to address the attitude of indifference, having that particular sight or view to not choose crime. That's very interesting, Ms. Laureline, because I would really love to ask how you approach that, and that will be, I will hold you on, that will be your take. I will hold you on that, just like Dr. Shamir here. We have his take on cybercrime, and yours will be the psychology of crime, choosing the better option. Is that the right word, Shamir?
Yep, that's
Psychology
right.
of crime, choosing the right option.
I think one of the most interesting, or one of the interesting things that Laureline has shared is that, when she says, it's not that they want to do crime, right? These guys are extremely intelligent. Some of them have Fortune 500 characteristics, but the problem is they have street mentality, right? So how do we then
Right.
convert that street mentality to Fortune 500 mentality, right? Because they already have the characteristics of it. Like she said, they are good leaders. They are motivated to do something. It's just that their motivation is moving towards something negative or something immoral. How do we then redivert that to focus that same energy of trying to accomplish something towards something more positive? So I think what she's doing is actually amazing, and I think
Oh
most of us,
yeah,
when we look at
definitely.
crime, most of us, when we look at crime, we always say, oh no, they are criminals. Let's just fix them, or put them aside, put them away from society. But she's going and she's doing something. Nope. I understand, you have a problem. Let's now redirect this into something positive, and you're going to achieve great things.
Right. My friend, there's a little of my background. I didn't start
Being a
out as a
criminal?
good guy. I grew up in the streets. And
Right?
growing up in the streets, you're very exposed to the easy things, which is doing the bad thing. And because doing the bad thing gives all the result, especially the good ones. The things that make me buy the things I want to buy, to easily forget the pressures of life and life's terms. It easily, if it's not readily available, It is what is being manipulated for that particular child to take, because it's so easy to misdirect that particular child, especially if that child is in the environment where he or she is not even aware that that is the environment she's in. Am I correct, Ms. Laureline?
Yeah, yeah. I think like what you're saying is like the extent of the role of identity in crime, like how much of a cultural thing it is. Like when I say I am a criminologist and a psychologist, people always think that I'm looking at the individual that has a problem in his mind, which is definitely not what I'm doing, because I consider most of the crime happens in a very specific context, which is not dependent on who is the individual. You have people doing crime, they are actually, as Shamir said, very intelligent, and they're definitely not having a problem in their mind. They're just giving a context that pushes them through, like, to commit crime at some point. So it's very interesting, because even like when you said like the crimes in France, what's interesting, like that's a big country, and you have different cultural aspects of crime. So you have cities and regions in France when you have like very violent crime, and then you have other part of the country where the cultural aspect of crime is sexual crime, and you have other that is like very correlated to being alcoholic. Like most of the crimes are just accidents correlated to alcohol, for example. So it's very.
That is how it is divided in your country.
Yeah, like it's, of course there are any kind of crime everywhere, but you have like tendencies according to the space in the region. So that's very, very cultural. I would even say that crime is actually contagious. Like there is a contamination somehow, that if you are in a context where there are a lot of crime, that's like the psychology of the brain, you just reproduce what you see. You become what there is in the culture if you're not aware, just as you said before. If you do not have the awareness, the consciousness, you're just going to reproduce everything. People do that, people do that.
Right. Okay. So putting together with what you just said, which is the definitions or of the crime that are prevalent to each areas, and the thought of Shamir, Dr. Shamir here, in giving that, because it's very interesting. That is a blue collar crime. Then now you went to the executive crime. So those who are smart enough to do those particular crimes, which are, I think, borders on economical crime. Is that right, Shamir? That borders on economical crime, because these
commercial
are
crime,
people,
economical
right?
crime. Yep.
Commercial economic.
Yep.
So this is very interesting, because defining all of that now basically puts us in the crossroads in identifying, so what are we doing? So where is the criminology, where, because we are in the study of crime. So in our study, from the aspect of psychology, you have that. From the aspect of economic aspect of crime, from Shamir, how do we identify these? Are we to, from Ms. Laureline activities? She goes to the jails and try. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Laureline. You're trying to give them the option in converting them to be more successful rather than dig themselves deeper into crime. And for Shamir, it's intellectualizing, putting more conscious education, which I think is also what you're doing, Ms. Laureline, correct? On educating the psyche of the people. So I'll ask first, Shamir, from your end, now that on cyber crime or on cyber security, technology is moving too fast ahead of us. How are we catching up on that particular aspect of methodologies in crime prevention for economic stability?
Well, the biggest problem we'll have with that, but maybe just before I get into that, I think what Lauren says is very interesting, right? We are looking at sometimes crime that happens in certain areas, certain neighborhoods, and everybody, because the environment is
Right.
such, and I think that has been proven a lot with the life cost theory, which is very widely spoken in criminology. Is the environment around you is the one that shapes you, and Prof. Loy Reyes has said something interesting as well. Attitude and human behavior is a reflection of experience good and acceptable stimulus, which also is the basis of any decision and action, right? So when we look into all of that, uh, you know like what Lorena said, now is where you make that decision. With the knowledge I have, or with the motivation I have, do I want to put it into something good or something bad, right? And coming and how this all relates back to technology is that what happens with a lot of crime prevention technology or a lot of cybersecurity is that they need to wait for an incident to happen before they can take action, right? Because a lot of us
Right.
are trained, we are trained to think that, okay, I just need to put up wall after wall after wall, right? And as it usually goes back to, if there's no demand, there's no real reason for me to develop something new. So that is why criminals will always stay ahead, right? We will have technology, right? Like for example, let's talk about love scams, right? So or catfishing. A lot of people will pretend to be somebody they are not online, uh, I'll take Lauren's picture and pretend to be Jessica, and I'm going to get all these guys to funnel money to me, right? But you see, there already has
Who is
been
Jessica?
technology. That's my catfish, right? I'm going to pretend to be Jessica, but just take her face, right? And then I'm going to tell
Oh,
guys,
okay.
"Hi, I'm Jessica. Can you send me some money? I'm in love with you. I want to be with
But
you. And come and
using
live with me."
Lorraine's
By using
picture.
Lauren's picture, right? But you see that people still become victims of this, even though there already is technology to identify if a person is catfishing you or not. All you have to do, let me teach you this, and to all the viewers and listeners out there, this is such an simple and free method you can use to detect if someone is actually using a fake photo. All you do, like I said, I will take her photo, I will say my name is Jessica. All you have to do is just take that photo, drag and drop it into Google Images. And what Google Images does is that it reverse searches that image. And if you see, hey, Jessica, me, but my name that keeps popping up is Laureline's account. So then oh, I'm definitely catfishing you. I am not who I say I'm supposed to be,
Oh.
right? It's a free feature on Google Images. It's been around, but still people have been falling victim. And the main reason for that is that even though, like earlier we spoke, you asked about what are the current tools. These tools are out there. It's just that are we aware of it or not? The biggest problem is that a lot of people follow influencers which don't know what they're talking about when it comes to crime prevention, instead of listening to shows like yours, right? More people should be tuning in to these sort of shows so that they actually understand what's going on, instead of following somebody on Instagram and TikTok who have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to crime prevention and security, and, and,
But
and
the
and following
culture
advice
of
from them.
social function
Yeah.
is liking someone you don't know. See that's where the very interesting part is. This is where criminals capitalize.
Yep.
They give you that particular bait of
Mm.
interest in finding, because naturally, I mean, Miss Laureline will
Yep.
agree here. Naturally, a kid or a person of lesser information
Hmm.
chooses the exciting part, which is the
Yeah.
more adventurous part of it. Talking to someone they don't know,
Yes.
getting interested in some things that this particular person keeps on posting that makes me
Mm.
wanna be part of that person's lifestyle. So
Yes.
then, of course, if I'm not going to verify and fact check, then I will
Yeah.
be easily baited. Uh, there's a interesting uh, message here that Dr. Loy Reyes was able to. He's the Vice President of Campus Security and Safety. He said, attitude and human behavior is a reflection of experienced good and acceptable stimulus, which is also the basis of any decisions and actions. I think it falls right into our discussion. If the attitude of the viewer
I
catches
think
more interest on that particular thought, that's what I shared a while ago, then it's bait.
yeah.
Lauren, you're sharing?
Yeah, just before Shamir, what's so interesting, you said like around like cyber security, and you said like people should have like good antivirus, right? Like, I think what's so interesting is that we should have good antivirus in our minds. Like the
Yes.
problem, like, that's what I am teaching, is because this is like mostly the work of Shamir is preventing people from being victims of crimes. I am preventing criminals from being more criminals. Like, I just like stop them from being criminals. But Shamir is teaching people not to be victims of crime, which is like a super important work. And what we do for that is just like we create antivirus in the mind. Like, if I am so well with myself, I do not need the love of Jessica that I do not know, that is online and lying to me that she loves me and she needs me and I am so important. And, like, if I do not need that, why would I fall into this trap? If I am so good with myself, if I am not dependent, like I do not have inner insecurity, I say that even for criminals, because criminology is actually victimology. Like, most criminals have been victims and are still victims in what they're doing. So if you look at criminals,
We call that codependence.
yeah, and like
Somewhere in their history, someone made them a dependent of what their criminal environment was.
Yeah. And that's like really, you see them, someone has been lying to them, saying like you will have the life of your dream, you will have recognition, you will have respect, you will have like a certain level, of social, and they're just falling into it, they're buying it. And this is like, you find them in jail and they were like, I was just hoping for my beautiful life. And you're like, just because they feel so insecure with themselves. They feel like if they have money, they are no one.
Right.
They're relying on having a lot of money to become a huge person in life. So if you remove that and you just bring like self-trust, self-confidence, leadership, like honesty, all of that, they just stop being criminals.
So here's a good quote. Now, Dr. Reyes, Dr.
Reyes, thank you very much.
You're three the living antivirus. Thank you for being around.
No,
See,
but I think Dr. Reyes is also one of those, for I'm sure everyone in the Philippines knows him as well.
You know Dr. Lo, you met him in IPSEC.
Yeah,
you met him in IPSEC. He's one of those guys that I introduced to you before.
To him and all. Thank you very much. And always thank you for the kind words.
See, technically, what we are discussing now are finding the antivirus. I think that's the reason why we are all in the world of study of crime, because we want to really know what makes a person become a person of criminal intent. Criminality is the intention to commit. Is that correct? That particular illegal act. Unlawful act. That's why it becomes a crime, because it is a violation of law. But I'm pretty sure Ms. Laureline here will be very interested in what I'll be saying. But not unless it is criminalized. It does not become a crime, but immoral to the standard of society that dictates the morality of that particular discussion, act, or mindset. So this is very interesting, because you're in the purview. Ms. Laureline is in the purview of the development to the world of crime, to prevention of it going back to society or productive society. So this is very interesting, because attitude is behavior is more on the purview of Laureline, wherein for both of us, Shamir, we are on the designing the methodology of
Yes,
how
yes.
it is being implemented,
Yes.
what it is being in that.
Yeah.
So these are interesting discussions, and this is not going to be the first and last of our discussion. We're just touching that particular topic because technically this is a big, larger discussion aspect of it. Psychology of crime, the behavior, as for Miss Laureline, is a whole new world of discussion because from the development to teen to adulthood, that's where the discussions are, and that needs to be dissected. I'm very interested particularly in what she does when that person is in jail, because we have outreach programs in jail, but because we have so much influx of drug addicts, that is the influx, that those are the people we try to convert. How for them to be positive, a positive and productive men and women of society after being incarcerated. It's very interesting, Shamir.
Yeah. You know,
This
brother,
is
you
one of
said
a good
something very
outreach
interesting,
here.
right? You said you see most countries have an outreach program. The Philippines has an outreach program, right? I've had the pleasure of coming to your prisons as well. You all have an outreach program, but yet the number of reoffenders are always there. So, but I think what Laureline has done, or the approach she has taken, has
Relapsers.
given a new understanding or new meaning to what an outreach program should be, right? How do we redirect that energy and that amazing mind that you have as a criminal into something positive, right? So I think, imagine the next session you have is just about how do we develop outreach programs, right, with Miss Laureline and all. I'm
I
very sure
think,
a lot of the prison
Ms.
authorities are
Laureline,
going to be very interested.
That's my
do
favorite
you have
topic.
that
I
program?
love that. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
What was that again, Ms. Laureline?
No, I said I just love this topic. This is my favorite one. Like, how do we actually like create programs that help people change? And it's not actually even changing. Like, how I see that is like becoming your true self, because you've been lied to and you've been living a life that is not yours. This is like actually, and that's very sad, because most criminals feels like they're in charge of their life, but actually they're just victims, and they're just like playing the game of someone else. Like they've been falling into a trap, and they're just like thinking that they're creating something for themselves, which is not true. They're actually most of the time working for someone else, and if it's not concretely someone else, it's someone else in their childhood who said something, and now it's like a virus in the mind, and it's like they keep going into that direction. So I think like what's really, really fascinating is I am not even actually helping people become productive citizens or normal citizens. And I think when you said just before, I loved it. When you said like, it's not only about crime, it's also being out of society. Most of them are so marginalized. It's not even about crime. They belong to a certain identity or a certain culture, even when they're not committing crime. So what we need to do is like really completing, like changing the identity of that, but also like I'm gonna say it the way it is, like for me in my heart. I just hate when we say we're going to help people go back to society. They hate society. Like, and there is a reason why. Like they've been betrayed somehow by society. You're not trying to destroy society with your acts if you do not have something in you that say it's not worth it. Like they do not see that this society is worth it, or that they belong into this society. And what we're always trying to do is get them back into society, into like responding to the mold of what they're supposed to be, like giving them a specific shape. But they're marginalized. They're not going to respond to that. They do not want to get back to that. There is suffering in society for them. So what I say is, when I arrive in jail, I am like, you were the front line. It was, your life was a war. You were at the front line. You just see all of the problems. Us, in our beautiful houses, beautiful life, money, opportunities, all of that, we do not understand society's problems. We were not living the problems in our skin, but you do. You understand. You see the suffering. You've seen people die. You've seen people suffer. You've seen the addiction. You've lived it yourself. So what you have is something most of us don't have, is the consciousness of what is going wrong, and you can change that. So I am not saying you're going to go back to society, have a normal job, do something easy, and just be a normal person. I'm saying go and change the world because you have the experience of what is wrong. And I'm going to give
So
you the
you're
tool for
teaching
that.
them to be leaders.
Yeah.
You're teaching them to follow what they were designed to do.
Yeah.
To whatever they had in their heart. This is what you're empowering them to use their experience to be better people.
I
Is
see
that
that
right?
I'm making
Sorry,
them.
can I just chime in a bit? I think, Mike, I think Laurie said something very interesting, right? She said, I am teaching
Right,
them because they understand what is wrong with society,
right,
right? So you are getting the people who have been betrayed by the system to say, or who has experienced exactly what is wrong or what's broken. So
right.
who better to fix something that's broken than a person who's been through a process. Like they say, if you want to teach somebody how to come out of poverty, if you've been in poverty, you've gone through that experience. So when she said it, that really stuck to me, that my god, that is so true, right? You need somebody who's been through that broken system to fix that system. If not, everything else is just an assumption of how it should be fixed.
And that's very funny because looking at the design of a society in itself is one, it is governed. It is governed because it has rules, and for it to function properly, people must comply what rules have been designed for them. Hence, it becomes a society. There's productivity, and there's and all of those design that falls into a society, and that society falls into the aspect of productivity because that gives you that particular reason for being. Where you fall on that is up to you and what you design it to be. And if you are a more productive individual, more talented, if I may, or more experienced, as it may seem, then you go forth and grab that particular identity that you could mold into who you could become inside. Because I was very particularly interested in when you said that the society was the betrayal of that particular identity, that particular person. I wonder then, would that person still be part of a society? Because I'll take it from what Dr. Loy Reyes is sharing. Being in the marginalized group is itself a crime of society. So I think that was what your point was, Miss Laureline, right? But the society is still where the part of that particular citizen falls into. So because us being a citizen falls into the rules base, the government, the people that are governed, and from that particular identity, it becomes very interesting because when we flex our experience, then we become who we are destined to be. Let's say I am a well-bred criminal. I was a mob boss for quite some time. This entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur in his own way, and after learning, because he was incarcerated, he got to hear, people, empowering them and mentoring them, and eventually changed his ways. He now became one of the owners of a good business, legal business outside, which is in society. Here in our country, there's I know one that became that, coming from, because he can't get a job because he's an ex-convict. So he was very entrepreneur enough to make his living, and he's a good cook. He has this concoction that was so tasteful and enjoyable and delectable, and it clicked. It became a good food. What do you call that? One of those carts, food carts. And now he has 50 food carts all over Metro Manila, and that's very interesting because now he became a successful individual. Is that still part of the psyche that you're saying, Mr. Rajadurai?
Yeah, definitely. Like that's a very good example. I have another one, like a guy that I accompanied in jail. When he got out, like he started working in exactly what he wanted to work in, but it required a lot of effort. So you need to have like a very strong mindset to just like keep in your lane, and you have a goal, and you are going to just like go through any kind of challenges that you will face. And he did that, and then he was like contacting me and saying like, I changed my life, and I'm changing the life of my brother who was also in jail. I am changing the life of my family, and I am changing like I want to change more lives. And he was like, I want to go to jail with you. I want to speak. He said like, I have some stories that I can share because I grew up in a very violent environment, but I was never a prisoner. I never went to jail myself. I was never convicted of anything. So he was like, what you're doing is transforming life, but you've not been a prisoner. I've been. I want to come with you, and I want to speak as a prisoner who changed his life. I want to give an example.
He becomes a testimony.
Exactly. But this is his goal in life. Since we've been doing the work together, he's like, I need to succeed because they need to have an example of how it's possible. And he's actually changing a lot of lives around him.
And he doesn't and it's one of his dreams not to go back to where he was. Definitely, I think that's definitely one of his strong feature. Hell with you guys. I'm not gonna go back to who I was before. I suffered enough, but I need to help others. He started to become that particular mentor, so to speak. This is very interesting. Dr. Loy Reyes, thank you very much for your thoughts, because these are good discussion points, what you're pointing out. Because right now, my friends, he is saying, because I'm also a firm believer that since despite of our challenges, hardships, and cultural indifferences, it does not limit us not to become better people or not criminals. It gives us limited options. So it's very interesting because he said it's also a responsibility of government, because government must find a way to develop a paradigm shift in keeping everyone productive and useful. This society that betrayed them must also be the same society that would identify them and provide them. A while ago, you guys were saying that they were victimized by the society. It's same culture of codependency. If I was the reason why my daughter or my son became a problem or had this particular problem, if I was able to change, shouldn't I be more responsible as well to guide them to the right direction? So I'm putting myself as a government. If the government is the one that was having a problem with identifying the particular rules and incarcerated me the wrong way, they were too harsh for me, and stereotyped me as an addict, or short of saying a criminal, criminalized me. Therefore, I was betrayed by the system. Wouldn't that same system be able to be the same system that would identify that particular victim to become, oh, he's no longer part of the stereotype. He is now this particular stereotype, because it's still stereotype, my friends. Success puts you in a category that falls under a certain identification. That's why Dr. Loria is very interesting, because when he said being in the marginalized group is itself a crime, but we are all part of the marginalized. we're marginalized group of criminologists. Is that correct? Laureline here is a marginalized group of criminal psychology advocates.
We're very marginalized. We're very like not a lot of us.
Yeah, that's interesting when you said that we're very, because in the Philippines, the very challenge we have is placing guidance counselors in schools, because as you said, they must be guided before they should have options. It's very interesting how your culture works, because I'm starting to feel just like Dr. Shamir here. It's very interesting how Malaysian society also works in decriminalizing or finding child behavior before they become criminals. Because there's always two routes, right?
Yes.
Better person, good person, or that particular person that goes to the other side.
Yeah. One
Shamir?
of the things that's interesting is that is that age where the 12-year-olds to 15 years old, right? This is the age that what you would categorize as the junior youth age, right? You are not a child anymore, nor are you a youth yet. You're not a teenager yet. You're just that in between
Is
stage,
that
and that's the
juvenile?
time. Well, it's juvenile, but it's still
No.
you are juvenile, right? You are in that juvenile category, but as an individual, you are what we would categorize as something called junior youth. You're not a youth, nor are you a child. You're in that in between stage. And what's interesting about that is that that's the time you're finding your identity, right? You're not a child anymore, but you're not yet a teenager. So what is your identity? And that's why, if you're in the wrong
It's a
society, you're in
curiosity
the wrong,
state.
yeah, you're in the you're in the wrong group of friends, and then you become, for example, just say, I'm very close to my neighbor and he's a drug dealer. So what do you think that's going to happen to me, a 12, 15-year-old? I'm going to look up to that guy, right? So I'm going to say, okay, when I grow up, I want to be a drug dealer. So that age is a very crucial age, right? That if you channel it right, you get very, very good individuals from there. If it's channeled in the wrong direction, and that becomes the identity. I'm going to be a gangster, I'm going to be a drug dealer, I'm going to be a murderer, right? So it's so important for us to channel it at that stage.
It's very interesting, because that's when we now go into finding the solutions, how to provide the particular identification of solutions for people to have options where direction to go. This is very interesting, because that falls on the purview of Miss Laureline. And for us, it's very highly beneficial, my friend Shamir, because this is also where we find the good designers of crime preventive tools. Because if they become people who would look up to some people, because I've known a few that had a police officer as a neighbor, and they wanted to become a police officer. So that's
Exactly, perfect.
so it's a good thought, and I would love. This is where we would have to have our audience uh, think of what was already discussed, and how do you call this? Sulk what so many thoughts and ideas had already been thrown into this particular airing of our program, because those were big words, my friends. The experience of Miss Laureline and how she deals with society, in particular in France, and she could how she does her thing in doing her advocacy. I'll just give an overview to our friends. In her site, Laureline Soler method, I translated it in English. I hope that's okay. I'll be reading from that. She said that, hello, I'm Laureline. At the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I lost my motor skills following many psychological shocks, trials, and traumas. I was in a deplorable state, and all the years of therapy I had done, as well as my master's degree in psychology, did not seem to help me. Every day of my life, I ask myself these kinds of questions. Will I one day succeed in living a fulfilling life, or will I remain eternally in the difficulties that suffocate me today? Is it possible that I will finally come out of depression, that I will heal my traumas, or must I resign myself to living my life like this? Am I cursed, or is there another life waiting for me after all this? This is a very, very interesting quote. I hope it's okay, Miss Laureline, reading from there. Because now, in the society of the Philippines, we do not have active shooters, thank God. But what we have, suicide, unfortunately. But this is where depression comes in. There's many forms. I for one appreciate what you wrote on that particular uh was that a website?
Yeah.
It's a website, right? That's your website. So because it sends a message. Crime prevention is so fast that it's designed like a web. It's so many items um, that it's very interesting to talk about. And from the next to the next episode, I will have to invite you guys again because this is a good topic. Um, I hope you will hear from Ms. Laureline from the psychology side of it, and I'm pretty sure my friend Shamir will help me dissect this for Miss Laureline, so that we could be able to discuss more on these particular topics. Because I've been getting many questions from my messages here in Facebook, and as well as from my other cell phone here, and they're saying to we need to open up the psychology side. Yeah, but we also need to talk about the practical side. Now, what are your methodologies of crime prevention? So we have both of them here with us, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys enjoyed that particular discussion. Will that will be the takeaway, and we'll give some parting message and his takeaway from the discussion. And of course, then we'll go to Miss Laureline on her takeaway and her message for all of us. Shamir, you
Yes.
first.
Thank you very much. So I think just to conclude what we were roughly sharing today, one of the things that I think is very important is that when it comes to crime prevention, don't forget there are already tools out there. All you need to do is to prepare yourself, check it out, and stay updated. And if you are not following Mike's podcast, you have to follow because that's where you get information to stay updated on what's currently going on, right? And just touching a little bit on what Laureline said about having good role models around, and for you as a junior youth to move forward and to achieve things in life. I have to say, I know your story on how you've grown from where you started to where you are now. You're an example of a good role model. So first of all, I have to say thank you very much for being an awesome soul and contributing to society. You could have diverted at any time, but you worked your way up. You worked your way up. You started from the bottom, and brother, I'm so pleased to see your progress, and I'm proud to call you my brother. It's such an honor to be part of your show. And any viewer who's watching this, you need to share this with people and get more people to watch this. Don't just watch it and be selfish and keep it for yourself. Share it with people and let people learn from this. These are good platforms. It's perfect platforms for people to learn good stuff, right? So again, thank you very much, brother, for having me here, and it's always a pleasure. I'm always happy to come back. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just like going like from what Shamir just said, because he said what I wanted to say, but like thank you so much for having us and having me today, like in your show. Like I really loved it so much, and it was like such a pleasure. And I am so moved of all of the people going through like this reflection with us and trying to understand and being interested in the topic, because that's like such an a very, very important one. Like, we really need to have the whole society discussing that. So I just share the same thing that Shamir just said, is that we are whole having a huge responsibility. Like Shamir and I and you, Mike, like we are all having like a job on that specific topic. But it's not because we're not working in this specific field that we're not responsible or that we cannot have an impact. We have, like, all of us have an impact as a friend, as a teacher, as a neighbor, like whatever. Like, we are in contact with people and we can like just offer something, even a smile, even some love, even some encouragement at some point. This is also valuable, also precious. So that's just like, I would say, like, we need to change things as a whole, as a society. All of them are being part of the society. So we can change things when we just exist. We are having an impact.
Thank you very much. These are, I think we have crossed over, my friend Shamir. We've crossed over crime prevention to behavioral crime. So
yeah, and I just love this comment. Crime prevention is a shared responsibility. Like, we're all together in this process.
every time I close my program, I have this quote. You'll hear it later. Security is everybody. Security and safety is everybody's responsibility. So I say that in my language because I'm trying to make the Filipino people know that you just don't leave it up to the police officers. It's the responsibility of every individual to get out of where they are if they're inside the web of difficulties and be more productive, be more a better part of society. Again, I'll go to that society aspect because being part of that, then you're able to contribute to a better country, a better world. So just like what I have here with all of you guys, with our listeners, we have from Malaysia, one person that tries to make a difference in his country, another person, Miss Laureline from France, who's also trying to make a difference in her own way for a better France. I'm not trying to own up that particular aspect of it, but at least I'm not one of the people that tries to make it worse. I'm trying to be one of the people that tries to make our lives better, and this is very inspirational. What you said with your website. Now I understand why Shamir was very interested in endorsing you to be part of the program. Now I see why, because it's very interesting when you share advocacy. It's not just passion. It is the direction. It is the vision. It is the goal. It is what had already been molded in your heart. And nobody can beat that. If it's inside the heart, I don't think anyone nor anything can be able to stop your particular movement towards what direction you're heading. So it's my pleasure. It's our countrymen's honor to have you guys with us in our small radio program, and to the people listening in radio right now. So we have with us Dr. Shamir Rajadurai from Malaysia, and Coach Laureline from France, Laureline Soler from France, and giving out their thoughts and their visions in a better society, a better countries, better world for us to live in. My friends, Shamir, thank you very much for joining me in this program. Thank you very much, Ms. Laureline, for joining me. As I close, I'll be going to my dialect. Sa tulad po ng lahat ng kwentuhan o usapan, tayo po'y palagi may umpisa at may katapusan. Naway marami po tayong napulot na aral at magagandang halimbawa at storya na magsisilbing handang gabay sa atin sa lahat ng hamon sa buhay. Pag tama ang kaalaman, tiyak ang kaligtasan at kapayapaan ng bawat mamamayan. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, nagpapaalam at nag-aayaya na sa susunod na broadcast po natin muli tuwing alas 7 ng gabi dito pa rin sa LaGuardia News Online FB page at sa himpilan ng Armed Forces Radio sa DWDD 1134 kHz AM band every Saturdays from 3 to 4 p.m. and all its social media accounts at AFP Radio, Mike LaGuardia DATUIN, Anghel de la Guardia, Mike DATUIN, LaGuardia News, and at LaGuardia, Anghel de la Guardia by Mike DATUIN YouTube channel. Muli po, Mike LaGuardia DATUIN, nagsasabi at nagpapaalala sa ating lahat na ang seguridad at kaligtasan ay responsibilidad ng bawat mamamayan. Mapasaan ka man, lakasan ng loob, have courage, dahil lahat po tayo ay may Anghel de la Guardia because all of us has their own guardian angels. Stay safe and God bless everyone. Dr. Shamir, Laureline, thank you and see you next programming.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you for your work. I will come back with a lot of joy.
Bye-bye.
Narito ang makabuluhan at siksik na talakayan. Ang programang may puso at kapupulutan ng aral ukol sa seguridad at kaligtasan. Umaksyon, maging alerto. Anghel de la Guardia.
Place Records. Easy.
Isang masaya, mapayapa at ligtas na araw Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao.
Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
Binabati natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world mula sa Amerika, sa Europa,
Ngumiti ka lang
UAE, Qatar,
lahat ng iyong
at sa
hirap
Russia.
at sakit ay merong sagot.
Ating kagwadyan,
Sa madilim mong mundo
tundaluan,
na nababalo.
kapulisan,
Bubuksan ko yan at
kaakibat sa public
bibigyan ko ng
safety,
liwanag.
peace and
Magtiwala
order,
ka
mga
lang
empleyado
at
ng
huwag kang
pamahalaan,
mapagyabang.
mga ordinaryong
Andito ako,
manggagawa, may
handa
kapansanan
kitang
ka man o
ipaglaban.
wala.
Kahit anong
Ang
mangyari,
ating mga
di kita
kabataan
iiwan.
o ang ating
Huwag ka
mga
na malungkot,
tinatawag
andito
na
na ako.
millennial.
Pupunasan
Mula po
ko
sa
ang
amin
luha
dito
sa
sa
mga
programang
mata mo.
Anghel
Di
de
ka
la
na
Guardia,
magdurusa
programang
pagkat ako magsisilbi
para sa
sa'yo.
Guardiang Pilipino,
Anghel
karapatan
de la
ng mga
Guardia.
manggagawang
Huwag ka
tagaligtas
na
at
malungkot,
lahat ng
andito na
manggagawang
ako.
Pilipino ukol
Pupunasan
sa
ko ang luha sa
kaligtasan at
mga mata mo.
kagandahan.